Hello guys, we're going to get this situated. Make sure we can all see it appropriately. Okay, today we're going to be covering adding and subtracting fractions. Okay, I dropped the ball and didn't print the papers for you. If you would like to print a copy of it, it is in Schoology and you can print the worksheets. Otherwise, it's handwritten, so you may want to freeze the video at this point or pause it so that you can copy this information down. Make sure that you have your name, the title, the date, the class, and the number. And then this is your addition and subtraction fraction steps. Okay, the first step is always rewrite the problems from mixed numbers to improper fractions. Then you find a common denominator by identifying the least common denominator, the LCD. Then you rewrite the fractions using the LCD as the denominator, adjust your numerator as needed, and then we add or subtract the numerators and keep the common denominator. And then if it's needed, you simplify. So again, if you need to pause at this point to write this down, go right ahead. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and start working some examples if you chose to print. All right, so example 1. This is 1 over 10 plus 3 over 10, and this is the simplest problem. Okay, it already has a common denominator. So now I'm just going to add the numerators, and that's going to give me, so I'm adding my numerators. So that's going to give me 4 over 10. And now I need to simplify because they are both even. So I'm going to divide by 2, divide by 2, and that gives me 2/5 as my final answer. And make sure that you box your answer and show all of your work. Okay, example 2. 1/4 plus 2/3. Now our first step here is we have to find a common denominator. So I'm looking for a number that both 4 and 3 can go into evenly. Easiest way to find a common denominator is to multiply the two together, which gives me 12. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to think, is there anything smaller than 12 that 4 and 3 can go into? And I've got the factors of 12 are 2, no. 6, no. 4, no. 3, no. 1, no. 12, no. So 12 is it. Yes, 12 is yes. So my common denominator is going to be 12. So I'm going to write that new denominator down, and I'm going to ask myself, how many times does 4 go into 12? 3 times. So I'm going to multiply times 3. 1 times 3 gives me 3. 3 goes into 12 4 times. So I'm going to multiply times 4, the numerator times 4. So 2 times 4 is 8. And now I have a common denominator, and I treat it just like we did number 1. So I'm going to add my numerators. 3 plus 8 is 11/12. I can't simplify this any further, so this is my final answer. Now, we're going to work certain problems from here, so if you've printed the worksheet, we're not going to be using all of the problems on here right now in the video. You will be doing the rest of those as your classwork homework assignment. So we're jumping now to number 4. And we have -6 minus 1/4. Now I actually put the negative up here, but it's actually kind of right here. This should be a big number 6, so we can make this better. There we go, that's exactly right. All right, so now we've got to think about what is the denominator of 6? How do I make the whole number 6 into a fraction? Anytime you need to do that, you put the whole number over 1. So I'm going to make a little note right here. Make whole number fraction by putting over 1. That's how you make a whole number into a fraction. You put it over 1. All right, so now we've got a fraction. So, okay, at this point, I'm now going to need to find a common denominator between 1 and 4. That's going to be 4. So I'm going to now have 4 minus 4. Now, when I've got a negative sign like this, okay, it can either go into the top or the bottom, not both, okay? So I'm going to add another little note over here. Okay, so negative sign on fraction goes to top or bottom, not both. So it either goes to the top or the bottom, not both. All right, so now we can finish this problem. 1 goes into 4 times, so I'm going to do times 4. So that's going to give me, now I know that I'm going to have a negative right here because I've chose to move it to the top. So I'm just doing 6 times 4. So that's going to give me a 24. Now 4 goes into 4. So this is the same. I'm just rewriting this information. All right, so now I'm going to just do my work. Follow my integer rules here, okay? So this means I've got negative 24, and this minus, this is a negative, so I'm going to think of this as negative 24 plus negative 1. They're the same sign, so they're doing teamwork, so that's going to give me a negative 24 over, sorry, I can't add, negative 25 over 4. And now we need to simplify. This, I'm going to say this is an acceptable answer, but we want to be able to write it in both. So therefore, I'm going to change this to a mixed number. So I'm going to do 4 goes into 25 6 times. So I'm going to have a negative 6 and 1/4. And I know that some of you might have been like, I could do this much simpler. Yes, I get it. But remember, when we're doing these problems, we are learning the correct process for when it's a different type of problem. We're practicing the process, not just how to get to the answer. Okay, next problem. Number 5. We have 2/9 minus negative 5/18. Move this up. Okay. So when I'm looking at this, first things I'm going to notice is this is a double negative. Since that's a double negative, I'm going to first things first, that makes a big plus because that's a double negative. So now it's just a big addition problem, but I've got to find a common denominator. My common denominator between 9 and 18 is going to be 18 plus 18. This has the same denominator, so I'm just going to rewrite the numerator. And now 9 goes into 18 twice, so I'm going to do times 2. So this now becomes 4 over 18. And now we just add. So I end up with 9 over 18, which simplifies to 1/2. And there's that final answer. Okay, next example. Number 7. We have negative 2 3/8 minus 1 3/4. Now, one way to think about this right off is I've got both negative numbers here. So therefore, I'm going to be, in a sense, adding them together, and I better end up with a negative answer, is your first thoughts. But when we're looking at this, my directions say to write all mixed numbers as improper fractions. When I'm doing that, I'm not worried about integer rules. We're just changing them, okay? We're just changing to improper fractions. So right now, we're going to ignore integer rules when changing to improper fractions. So I can go ahead and just write that this is going to be a negative. I always write my negatives on the top, but it really doesn't matter. 8 times 2, so that's 16, plus 3 is 15. So this is going to be, no, 8 times 2 is 16, plus 3 is 19. So we have a negative 19 over 8 minus 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7/4. Now we need to find a common denominator, which is going to be 8. So this is going to be written the same, negative 19/8 minus, now here, my common denominator is 8. 4 goes into 8 twice, so I'm going to do times 2. So this is going to be minus 14. When I'm looking at this, they're both negative, so therefore I'm adding, okay? Because both of these are negative numbers, I'm actually going to add. They're doing teamwork. So we end up with a negative 33/8. And then this could be written as this. I can't simplify this any further. So this is a correct answer, or I change it to the mixed number. So 8 is going to go into 33. This is a negative number, so my answer is going to be negative. It's going to go 8 into 33 4 times, so it's going to be a negative 4 and 1/8, because I'm going to have 1 left over. 8 goes into 33 4 times, which is going to be 32. 33 minus 32 is 1. All right, we have 2 more examples, guys. Almost done. In this page, I'm going to just create a new page so it doesn't kind of show through. All right, so this is number 10. And we have 1 7/16 minus 1 1/6. So again, the first step is to change them to improper fractions. So 16 times 1 is 16, plus 7 is, so we have 23/16 minus 1 times 1, 6 times 1 is 6, plus 1 is 7/6. And now we need to find a common denominator. And I'm going to be perfectly honest, I don't know one right now. So I'm going to have to sit here and think. I'm going to look at the bigger one, and I'm going to do, okay, 16 times 2, that gives me 32. 6 does not go into 32 evenly. So I'm going to do 16 times 3, that gives me 48. 6 does go into 48, so therefore this one will work. So I'm now going to have a common denominator of 48. 16 goes into 48 3 times, so I'm doing times 3. 23 times 3 is 69. 6 goes into 48 8 times, so I'm doing 7 times 8, which gives me 56. And now I subtract. 69 minus 56 is 13/48, and this cannot be simplified any further. There's my answer. All right, last one. Okay, this is an application problem, which is a fancy way of saying word problem. Okay, application, which is a word problem. And this is number 14. So I'm going to write the word problem. During a recent 2-day snowstorm, it snowed 6 1/8 inches on the first day. No laughing at the way I say on. My children laugh all the time and make fun of me. Okay, that's my South Louisiana accent coming off. And 8 5/12 inches on the second day. Find total snowfall. If you need to pause at this point to finish writing this down, go right ahead, and then you can start back up. So keywords from in here that we need to pay attention to. Okay, during a recent 2-day snowstorm, it snowed 6 1/8 on the first day, 8 5/12 on the second day. We want to find, this is my question, circle the question, we want to find the total. Okay, so that means my problem is going to be written as, and therefore you need to write the expression that represents it, and then you calculate. So it's going to be 6 1/8 plus 8 5/12. And now we go to calculating. So I'm going to be doing 8 times 6. We first changed to improper fractions. 8 times 6 is 48 plus 1, so that's going to give me 49 over 8. 12 times 8 plus 5, that's going to give me 101 over 12. I'm just adding, so I'm going to add the numerators, and that's going to give me, oh, I can't do that yet. I've got to find a common denominator. Okay, so I'm going to erase this. And what's happening right now is my brain is thinking that there is a different way that you can work this problem that's going to be a little bit easier, and I'm going to show you that. So we have 49 over 101. Okay, we have to find the common denominator, which for this is going to be 24. And the way you figure that out is I'm doing 12 times 2, which gives me 24. 8 goes into 24, so that works. 8 goes into 24 3 times, so I'm doing times 3, and that's going to give me 147. 12 times 2, 101 times 2, so that gives me 202. And now I'm adding, now we add the numerators, and we get 349 over 24, which can't be simplified. Trust me on that, but it's much easier if I take it to the next step. Okay, when I reduce it to an improper fraction, it becomes 1 and 19 over 24. Now, this I can see easily, this part can't be simplified, so we're done. I can't go any further. It's not 1, it's 14. That doesn't make sense. 14. And remember, this is an application problem, so you must write your units. You must always have your units included when it's an application/word problem. Okay, so now that's one way to work this. Okay, another way to work this is if I have the problem 6 1/8 plus 8 5/12. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is go through and find a common denominator. I'm not going to change it to an improper fraction. I'm going to leave them as improper, as mixed numbers, I mean. So my common denominator is going to be 24. 8 goes into 24 3 times, so I have 3 here. 12 goes into 24 2 times, so do times 2. 5 times 2 is 10. Now I'm going to add these two together. So my next step here is going to be to add. 6 plus 8 is 14. 3 plus, did I write that correctly? What did I do? I did something, guys. 8 and 5/12. We have 6 and 8. No, I wrote the wrong number over here. This is 13 over 24 inches, and there is my final answer. And honestly, I like this problem better when you're adding, okay? So if adding, keep as mixed numbers. I think it's more beneficial, and I made an error over here. Rewrite this. This answer is actually 14 and 13 over 24, because I find the bigger your numbers, the larger the chance of error. This keeps them as small and more manageable. Okay. When you are done with copying the notes from the video, finish rest of notes problems as your classwork homework assignment. Make sure that you mention in the chat when you are finished copying up to here. Thank you.